Like, comment, subscribe, because once you step into this case, there's no turning back. If you think you've heard dark stories before, buckle up. This one doesn't just follow you home. It waits for you there. The rain had been falling for hours when the call came in. Not a scream, not a frantic 911 confession, just a broken sentence from a hiker who didn't want to say what he'd seen out loud. The dispatcher caught only fragments. Something in the water didn't look right. Please hurry. By the time patrol cars reached the old quarry outside Millhaven, the storm had turned the dirt road into mud and erased most of the footprints. Most, but not all. The body was wedged between limestone slabs at the edge of the flooded pit, half submerged, face down, jacket snagged on a rusted cable that once held mining equipment decades earlier. The quarry had been abandoned since the late 90s, a place locals warned their kids about. Too deep, too quiet, too easy to disappear in. Detective Mara Klein arrived as the coroner was setting up floodlights. She stood still for a moment, letting the scene speak before anyone else did. The water lapped softly against stone. Wind rattled a chain link fence. Somewhere in the dark, a generator coughed and steadied. This wasn't a random dumping. The position was deliberate. Whoever put the body here wanted it found, but not quickly. The victim was a man in his early 30s. White, clean cut, with an office worker's hands and a faint tan line where a wedding ring used to be. No wallet, no phone. The jacket was expensive, soaked through. The brand label still intact. On his wrist, a watch that had stopped at 2:17 a.m. Klein leaned closer. There were marks on the neck, bruising. Not sharp, not clean. The coroner murmured something about manual strangulation. Up close, Klein noticed the scuffing on the shoes, the kind you get when someone is dragged across gravel. The quarry floor was too muddy to read the story clearly, but the body had fought gravity on the way down. That much was certain. By sunrise, the victim had a name. Ethan Caldwell, 34, financial analyst. Recently promoted, recently separated. He'd been reported missing by his sister less than 12 hours earlier, after he failed to pick up his son from his ex-wife's apartment. The timing was tight, too tight for coincidence. Ethan's life, on paper, was boring in the way successful lives often are. Condo downtown, a German sedan, gym membership he barely used. Co-workers described him as polite, ambitious, careful with money, careful with words. The kind of man who kept his head down and didn't make enemies. But Klein had learned a long time ago. People don't end up at the bottom of a quarry because their lives are boring. At the station, a map of Ethan's last known movements bloomed across a whiteboard. Credit card activity stopped at 9:42 p.m. A gas station coffee. Traffic cameras caught his car heading west instead of home. His phone went dark just after midnight. No outgoing calls, no texts, no panic button. Detective Jonas rejoined Klein with 2 coffees and a look he reserved for cases that smelled wrong. He didn't go to the quarry by accident, he said, setting the cups down. Nobody does. They interviewed Ethan's ex-wife, Laura, first. She sat straight-backed in the interview room, hands folded, eyes red but dry. Shock had a way of organizing grief into neat lines. We were separated, not enemies, she said. We argued about schedules, money, stupid things. He wouldn't just vanish. When asked about Ethan's recent stress, she hesitated. He said work was intense. He said he was fixing something. That's all, fixing something. Klein wrote it down and circled it. At Ethan's office, the mood was subdued, whispers following the detectives down glass corridors. His manager praised Ethan's performance, then paused when asked about pressure. There was an internal review, he admitted. Nothing criminal. Just irregularities. Numbers that didn't align. Ethan volunteered to help clean it up. Clean it up. Another circle. The deeper they dug, the less clean it looked. Ethan had accessed files outside his department. He'd worked late nights without clocking overtime. And 2 weeks before his death, he'd withdrawn a large sum of cash, legal, but unusual for a man who tracked every dollar. By the 3rd day, the media vans had arrived. Headlines screamed about a mysterious quarry death. Pundits speculated about affairs, embezzlement, organized crime. The department issued careful statements. The public filled in the gaps with fear. Then the autopsy report landed. Cause of death: asphyxiation by manual strangulation. Time of death estimated between 1:30 and 2:30 a.m. There were defensive wounds on Ethan's forearms. Under his fingernails, trace material, skin cells, possibly fibers, and something else. A thin, nearly invisible slice along the inside of his jacket seam. Intentional, surgical, not a tear from the fall. Klein felt the case tilt. They returned to the quarry with a forensic team and daylight. Near the rusted cable, they found a partial bootprint rare in the mud, preserved like a fossil. The tread was distinctive, European brand, expensive, and not Ethan's size. A witness surfaced that afternoon. A night security guard at a warehouse 2 miles from the quarry reported seeing a dark SUV parked with its lights up around 2 a.m. He hadn't thought much of it until the news broke. He remembered one more detail. The SUV had a personalized plate. He couldn't recall the letters, only that it had a small emblem on the corner. A charity sticker, blue and white. Klein and Reed followed the thread. They canvassed Ethan's contacts. Friends said he'd grown distant. A coworker mentioned a woman who'd been calling him late at night, always hanging up before leaving a message. Phone records confirmed it. Blocked number, repeated calls, short duration, pressure mounted. The mayor wanted updates. The department wanted progress. And somewhere beneath the noise, a killer watched the clock. On the 5th night, Klein received an anonymous email. No greeting, no signature, just a sentence and a photo. You're looking in the wrong place. The photo showed a basement door, painted grey, scratched at the handle as if someone had tried to pry it open. On the wall beside it, barely visible, was a smudged blue and white. A charity sticker. Metadata placed the image inside Ethan's condo building. Klein didn't wait for a warrant. She called Reed and drove. The building manager swore there was no basement storage assigned to Ethan. The door wasn't on the official plans. It sat at the end of a service corridor, hidden behind stacked cleaning carts. The air cooler there, heavier. They forced the lock, and when the door swung open, the smell told them everything before the light did. If this chapter pulled you in, don't blink now. Like, comment, and subscribe, because what they found behind that door didn't just explain the murder. It proved the real horror was only beginning.